a sinner, left my lover crying on the dance floor. I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner.
Welcome back to Slow Damage. If it wants to load. Aha, I figured it out. Let's continue. 1 week later. At least it was the day of Tono's party. At last it was the day of Tono's party. Per Taku's instructions, I only left my room when Tono called for me. That being said, the guy was clearly super busy, since he only called for me a handful of times, and only to serve him booze. Maybe Taku really did convince him to cut me a break. As I sat on the bed, I looked at the digital clock on the bedside table. Tono's party was now just 1 hour away. But there was still no word from Aiji. Right as I started to worry that we would run out of time, there was a knock at the door. I rose to my feet and walked to the door. One on the other side was the woman with a bob cut. She looked a bit flustered.
おい、何やってる?
A loud voice bellowed down the hall, and the burly guy came storming over to us. Great, this clown again. The woman looked over her shoulder and froze.
なんでこんなところにって、またお前か.
I didn't do shit, this is my room, fuck off. She came and visited me. He took one look at me, and his face twisted into fury.
こんな男に色目使ってどうするんだ? バカか?
She sang. Bro, you've never gotten laid, have you?
そんな。
部屋へ戻れ.
He grabbed her by the arm.
やめてください。
She flailed, trying to shake him off.
ん? おとなしくしろ.
Excuse me, shut the fuck up. Why, this man is just a gem, and by gem I mean throw him out the fucking window. She looked at me imploringly. But it wasn't fear I saw in her eyes. She seemed full of determination. Reflectively, I slammed my shoulder into her attacker.
何しやがる?
While he was distracted with the woman, I wrapped my left arm around his neck, put my elbow to his throat, and squeezed as hard as I could. He struggled to escape my grip, but I used all my strength to hold on, steadily choking him. Eventually, he went limp, passed out apparently. I laid him on the floor, then looked over at the woman.
ありがとうございます。
Hastily, she offered me something.
これ。
It was a cell phone.
昨日出先から帰ってくるときに、この携帯電話をあなたに渡してくれって頼まれて。
Oh, so you do leave this place.
店、誰に頼まれたんだ?
エイジさんです。知ってますよね。
Oh, so do you.
ああ。
In fact, he was the very person I was most hoping to hear from. But how did this chick know Aiji? Before I could ask, I decided to stuff the phone in my pants pocket, grab the goon, and drag him into my room. She saw what I was doing and grabbed his feet to help me haul him in. Just in case, we tied his hands and feet to the bathroom belt with bathroom belts and stuffed the washcloth into his mouth. Once I made sure he was out cold, I turned back to the woman.
エイジの知り合いなのか?
はい。
She made no attempt to explain further. But we didn't really have time to get into details anyway, so I pulled out the cell phone. Saved in the address book was a single entry, and I hit the call button.
父さん。
あ
あ。よかった。彼女がちゃんと渡してくれたんですね。
どういう知り合いなんだ?
今はちょっと言えないです。すみません。それより前に使った遠野さんの専用回線、思ってたより早く使用不可にされちゃったんです。まだ僕が使ったってことはバレてないと思うんですけど、念のためにリサさんにお願いしたんです。あ、 リサさんってこの電話を渡してくれた人です。
I glanced over my shoulder at Lisa's son, standing a short distance away.
そっちの状況は？
準備完了してます。パーティーの開催になんとか間に合いました。
どうするつもりだ？
それは秘密です。でもきっとうまくいきますよ。トワさんは村瀬先生と一緒にいてください。あとはリサさんが誘導してくれます。
誘導？どういうことだ？
すみません、もう切らないと。ではでは、健闘を祈ります。
And with that, he hung up on me. I turned back to Lisa.
エイジとの関係は？
She looked back at me silently. No fear remained in her eyes, just a strong, sharp light.
ここではちょっと。ただあなたを騙しているとかそういったことはないわ。絶対に。
Look, I believe Aiji because if he was trying to trick me, there'd be something with a bomb in it. Evidently, she and Aiji had some kind of secret connection, but I decided not to waste any more time pressing the issue.
この部屋にはこいつがいるからあなたは知り合いのところへ行った方がいいわね。
She looked at the lackey lying unconscious on the floor.
あんたは？
やることがあるから後で迎えに来るわ。あなたは先に出て。それとその携帯電話は持って行ってね。
わかった。
At her prompting, I stuffed the phone back into my pants pocket, then reached for the doorknob, but I stopped. I walked back to the unconscious guy, crouched down, searched his body. In the interior side pocket of his jacket, I found something metallic. I reached in to check and make sure enough it was a handgun. I pulled it out, tucked it into my belt behind my back, and then left the room. Lisa started to shut the door after me, but paused.
気をつけて。
With that, she closed the door. I hurried off to Taku's research room. This might be the last episode or second to last. Right as I was about to enter, I heard Taku's voice over my shoulder.
だからあと少しだ。少しだけ待ってくれ。最終確認が取れてないんだ。わかってる。ああ。わかった。
Apparently, he was on the phone. Once he went quiet, I opened the door and walked in. He looked up from his cell phone.
とわ、無事だったか？
エイジから連絡があった。お前と待ってるようにって。
そうか。
He sighed and frowned at me.
彼は一体何をするつもりなんだ？
さあな。パーティーの開催までに間に合ったとは言ってたけど。
He looked at the digital clock on the corner of the table.
パーティーが始まるのは午後5時。あと1時間もない。
今の電話、遠野か？
ああ、かなり焦ってる。だが、もともと与えられた時間が少なすぎたんだ。
Just then, the phone in my pocket started to buzz. I pulled it out and raised it to my ear.
もしもし、そちらの状況はいかがですか？
タクと合流した。
了解です。30分後に行動を起こしますので、それまでに薬に関するデータをまとめておいてください。リサさんが迎えに来たらデータを持って一緒に逃げてください。
わかった。
ではでは。
Taku looked at me sternly.
なんだって？
30分後に行動を起こすから、それまでに薬のデータをまとめろって。
データは全部この中にまとめてある。
He grabbed the USB drive off the desk and held it up for me to see.
あと30分か。何をするつもりなんだろうな。
It's Aiji. Boom, boom, baby, boom, boom.
建物ごと爆破でもするつもりじゃないのか？
Oh my god, yes. I donned a playful grin. 30 minutes later, outside I heard gunshots and a stampede of footsteps. Taku walked to the door, peered outside, then walked back.
キレキレにしか聞こえなかったが、爆発とパーティー会場って言葉が聞こえてきたぞ。
予想が当たったな。
そのようだ。
He shrugged and shook his head wearily.
出る準備は？
USB も完成間近の試作品も持ってる。
エイジの知り合いが迎えに来るらしい。
知り合い？どういう知り合い？
Oh, wait, is Lisa another explosion expert? Suddenly, the sound of a fight rang out from the hall. There was a muffled groan, and then all went quiet. A moment later, there was a shy knock at the door.
私よ。
It was Lisa. Is she a reference to Lisa from JoJo? If she's a badass, it's gonna be that. I walked to the door and opened it. She hurried into the room, dragging the body of some guy.
ちょっとそこで揉めちゃって。ごめんなさい。入れてくれる？
It was one of Tono's goons, unconscious. Taku looked at Lisa in shock.
君がやったのか？
Oh my god, it's Lisa.
揉めたから足を引っ掛けたら勝手に転んだのよ。
She answered casually as she shut the door behind her, then dropped the guy to the floor.
時間がないわ。行きましょう。
Taku looked at me perplexed.
行こ
わかった。
Sometimes you just roll with it.
必要なものは持った？
あ、
With Lisa's leading the way, we left the room. The hallway was empty, but it still felt like someone was watching us. Probably the result of the tension in the air.
ここから出る方法があるのか？
Taku called after Lisa as she walked.
このフロアに関係者専用のバーがあるでしょ。そこのスタッフルームから1階の裏口へ出られるのよ。
君は遠野の下で働いてるスタッフなのか？
そんなところね。
She walked briskly towards the bar area.
パーティー会場の他に遠野が経営してる店の一つでも爆発があったみたいで大騒ぎよ。ここにいた人たちもほとんどかき集められてるんじゃないかしら。
どっちも彼が。
Like you need to ask, it's Aiji.
ええ。
Before long, the bar came into view and no one in sight. We walked in and descended the spiral staircase to the main floor. The lights were off, and Shinkumi's nightscape glittered beyond the window. At the bottom of the stairs, Lisa suddenly came to a stop. Cold weather and voice acting, not good when you don't have your thing on. Likewise, Taku and I stopped short and looked ahead. They were in the center of the room, illuminated by the moonlight. Was Tono pointing a gun in our faces. Next to him, his subordinates had their guns drawn as well.
遠野。
村瀬、薬はどうした？それにお前ら、グルだったのか？
He pointed his enraged smile at Lisa next.
大方、スタッフルームから1階へ出ようとでも思ってたんだろう。
He probably has cameras in that. Scoffing, he jerked his chin in the direction of a nearby door.
どうして分かったのかって？俺の個人回線が誰かに使われたという報告が入ってな。
Lisa.
どうせお前たちだろうと思って監視を強化したんだよ。
Evidently, I wasn't delusional when I sensed someone was watching us.
そうしたら案の定、パーティー会場と俺の店がドカーンだ。さすがの俺も頭に血が上って、すぐにでもお前たちを殺そうと思ったんだが。
Is this from when we did it? Because damn, he sat on that shit for a while.
お前たちが部屋から出たという報告があったんでな。後をつけさせた。ところが、以降の動きがないとの報告が上がってきた。
No, Aiji did it. That's right, Aiji.
ようやく村瀬が悪あがきをやめて観念したのかと思ったら、これだ。
Suddenly, Tono thrust out his gun and pulled the trigger without hesitation. On reflex, we all hit the floor, but Taku grunted and grimacing. A dark red stain had appeared on his right coat sleeve, and it was slowly growing. This wasn't the first time he had taken a bullet protecting me from Tono. The memories flared up in my mind.
おい、やっていいぞ。どうせもう逃げられないからな。
Robotically, Tono's subordinates trained their guns on us as well, and we lay on the floor. I just healed from a gunshot, you dick. Taku yanked on my arm, trying to pull me behind him.
Taku!
I promptly recoiled. I didn't want them to turn him into Swiss cheese. But just then... One of the men yelped and dropped his gun. I looked over and spotted a small, slender blade sticking out of the back of his hand.
さっき入った部屋で拝借しておいたの。役に立ったわね。
She announced boldly. Evidently, she helped herself to some scalpels when she came to help us.
お前。
Go for his neck. Lisa turned her scalpel on Tono. With a venomous glare, he fired his gun. Her petite body flew backwards and she collapsed to the floor.
Oi!
Taku rushed to her side like he'd forgotten his own injuries entirely. She was curled into a ball and there was a scarlet stain over her abdomen.
私は平気。それより
Grimacing, she shot a pointed look at Tono's direction.
なんなんだお前らは。
Tono spoke matter-of-factly as he held the gun. Taku rose to his feet, squaring off against him. His brow was sweaty, probably from the pain of the gunshot. Tono lowered his head slightly and pointed his gun at Taku.
遠野、お前には本当に感謝してる。お前の助けなしに今の俺はなかった。
Thanks for the 2 gunshots too, you dick.
恩をあだで返すのがお前流の感謝なのか。
By the way, this is how you do it, villain.
そう思われても仕方がない。だが俺は人を助けたくて医者になったんだ。だからお前に従うことはできない。
今さら善人ぶるなよ。それでお前の罪が消えるとでも。
罪は必ず償う。俺はもう自分に言い訳をして逃げるのはやめたんだ。
あいつのせいか。
Tono flicked his gun in my direction.
トアは俺にきっかけを与えてくれた。それだけだ。
きっかけねえ。母親にの陰媒にたぶらかされただけじゃないのか。
Ow!
違う。
どうだかな。
いい加減にしろ。
Just then, Taku's entire vibe shifted. His smoke swayed angrily, tinged faintly red.
お前はどうやったって榊さんには勝てない。お前こそ無駄な悪あがきはやめろ。
Tono's expression twisted in fury. While he was distracted, I slowly slid a hand around to my back. Then I pulled out the gun from my belt and clicked the safety off.
地獄へ落ちろ。
Glaring at Taku, Tono squeezed the trigger. And that very instant... Movie logic! I fired the gun at Tono. Do it again, you gotta double tap this bitch. The recoil made my arm jolt upwards, but my bullet struck his gun. It clattered loudly to the floor. At that precise moment, Taku charged full speed and bowled Tono over.
くそ。
God, that's gotta hurt. As they wrestled on the floor, Taku grabbed both of his arms and pinned him.
離せ。
地獄へ落ちるのはお前だよ。
I walked over and thrust the barrel of my gun at Tono's forehead. He froze, looking at me with bloodshot eyes. Then Taku got up and reached for my gun. We exchanged a silent look, and he nodded and gently took it out of my hand. Let's look at that. That's right, bitch. Taku being daddy. Then he pointed it at Tono. Tono stared back at Taku, aghast. That's a good picture. Again, I love the art. Taku put his finger on the trigger. His eyes were filled with quiet, intense determination. He was planning to finish this. Silently, I looked at him. His finger tightened and pulled the trigger. A roaring explosion rent the air, followed by silence. Pale smoke rose from the barrel of the gun in Taku's hand, but at the floor, not Tono. Tono just shit himself. Tono froze, dazed. But Taku's expression didn't shift an inch. He just quietly stared back at Tono.
俺もお前も最低のクズだ。だが、俺はお前と同じところまで落ちるつもりはない。
With that low growl, he lowered the gun. After that, the mainland police arrived at the scene and took Tono into custody. Everyone at the party venue was rounded up, including the politicians and other authority figures. Just as promised, Aiji took the pill samples to the mainland police and told them of Tono's plan. Fortunately for Lisa, Tono's bullet wasn't fatal. She and the rest of us were taken down to the station as material witnesses. They searched the hotel building and found comatose individuals who had overdosed on the experimental drug, plus several corpses. Clean up your mess. But while the investigation proceeded without a hitch, Shinkumi would probably never go back to the way it used to be. For many years, the Takasato Gumi had rejected the mainland's involvement, but now things were different. From here on, the authorities would start to clean the place up. After a long period of questioning, Taku and I returned home from the mainland. Tono had shut down the clinic. When we finally made it back, we found Ray waiting for us at the door. The moment he laid eyes on us, he burst into tears and joyfully celebrated our reunion. Aw, we got a good ending, I think. I don't know if this one has multiple endings. Taku was charged as an accomplice to Takasato Gumi and indicted for falsifying medical documents. We never prepared for him to be detained until he was formally sentenced, but surprisingly enough, they let him out on bail. Because he had no prior criminal record and fully cooperated with the authorities, they decided he wasn't going to destroy any evidence or skip town. And he did exactly that, no. Taku wouldn't do that. I pulled out my cell phone and checked the GPS. I knew he lived somewhere nearby, but this was my first time actually going there. I stepped out of the silent clinic and started walking. We'll finish this today. I don't think we have much more to do. No, you save. Oh, you don't get to do much exploration. Okay. One day, while he was out on bail, I visited his house for the first time. Even Taku was surprised to realize he'd never invited me over in all the years we'd known each other. He laughed and said we probably see enough of each other at the clinic anyway. Like the exam room at the clinic, his house was fairly cluttered. The dining table was covered in flyers and papers, and the sink was full of dirty dishes. He sat me down on the sofa, went into another room to retrieve something, then came back. Aw, it's little us. We're adorable. It was a photo of a young boy. The boy was sitting with perfect posture and smiling shyly.
それお前だぞ。
Honestly, I found it hard to believe that this kid was me. It just looked like some random kid. Oh, why? Because he's got both eyes. But apparently this was what I was like when I was younger. As I stared down blankly at the photo, Taku sat next to me and gently put a hand on my back.
背中の傷どうだ？
Which one? You see, I recently had surgery to remove the web tag from my body. It happened a few days ago since Taku wanted to get it done before he went to prison. It ached on occasion, but otherwise didn't hurt. I shook my head and he let out a sigh of relief.
その写真、自分だって実感は湧かないか？
He smiled wearily at me.
お前のおふくろさんに食事に誘われた時、レストランで撮ったんだ。少し照れくさそうな顔してるだろ。お前もそのくらいの頃はまだ恥じらいってもんがあったんだな。
Ow.
そりゃこの年で今と同じだったらいろいろとやばい。
He chuckled in amusement.
まあな。だがこの頃からお前はどこか放っておけない空気があったよ。目を離した隙に折れちまうんじゃないかって思うような危うさがあった。その印象だけは今も変わらん。お前は危なっかしくて放っておけないよ。
だったら早く帰ってこいよ。
I looked directly into his eyes and he nodded firmly.
ああ、必ず戻ってくる。だから待っててくれ。
In response, I leaned in and kissed him. As our lips brushed, he reached out and gently took my hand. Then, as we pulled away, I laced my fingers with his. Zoa, I will atone for my crimes and come back to you, I promise. So please, wait for me. And thank you for accepting who I am. I think that's the end. After that, Taku was tried and sentenced to 2 years in prison. A pretty lenient sentence, in my opinion. The clinic had closed temporarily, but since the main practitioner was now a convicted criminal, it would probably never open its doors again. After my arm healed, I spent every day in the deserted clinic focusing purely on my art. I had filled multiple sketch pads and several canvases. All of them were portraits of Taku. Every now and then, Ray would bring me some food, claiming he was worried about me holed up in my apartment. Ultimately, he became my lifeline. Without his food, I probably would have ignored my own hunger until I starved to death. Then, about a year later, by the time Taku was let out on good behavior, I had painted dozens of new paintings. But I was partially obsessed with one of them, and I worked on it for hours and hours. Only when Ray informed me about Taku's return did I finally set down my brush. Which brings us to today. Cigarette dangling from my lips, I stood at the front gates of the mainland correctional facility. Multiple cigarette butts lay scattered at my feet. Somehow, I just I couldn't relax. Maybe I was actually nervous for a change. My new cigarette swiftly burned down to the filter. I dropped it on the ground and crushed it under my feet. But right as I was about to light another, I spotted a short-haired man walking towards the gate on the other side, carrying a navy blue duffel bag. Despite the unlit cigarette between my lips, I found my gaze drawn to him. The security guards opened the iron gates. The man bowed to them, then continued walking. As he passed through the gates, he spotted me and stopped short. I pinched the cigarette between my fingers and raised it in a greeting. He stared at me, stunned, then his expression crumpled and he struggled to don a smile. Slowly but surely, Taku walked up to me. I hadn't seen him in a while. He looked a little older, plus he had a buzz cut now, but he seemed stronger somehow. As he approached, I took a step forward. Then I slowly opened my mouth to speak.
おかえり。
Oh, longer hair.
ただいま。
We were now just 2 feet apart. The distance between us really drove home just how much time had passed. His smile was pained and a little shy.
迎えに来てくれたんだな。
ああ。
The awkward small talk swiftly petered out. I looked at him and noted the tension. What was there to talk about? Just then I remembered. I had a question I had been meaning to ask, but never found the right time. This wasn't exactly the best time either, but I had to admit, it'd make for an interesting icebreaker. So I opened my mouth and said,
あの時、言いかけてやめたこと、結局何だったんだ？
あの時？
He frowned at the sudden question.
うん。遠野のホテルで、俺を抱いた時だよ。
Taku blushed and averted his gaze in a panic.
何か言ったんだったか。
だから、言いかけてやめたんだよ。
ああ。
He seemed to remember. He nodded to himself, then looked back at me. The look on his face said, "Are you kidding me?" But that embarrassment slowly turned serious.
俺だけを見てくれって言おうとしたんだ。
It's cute.
お前はもともと不特定多数と遊ぶのを楽しんでただろ。だからそれはもうやめてほしいと言おうと思ったんだ。今はどうなんだ？
He looked at me wordlessly, but as time passed in silence, he steadily grew more and more anxious. I let out a breath.
バカバカしい。
Then my lips curled into a grin.
俺がここにいるのが答えだろ。
Yay! So that's it for Slow Damage. I enjoyed this game. I know it's not one typical for you guys, so hopefully you enjoyed it. I do like doing yaoi games every so often, and hopefully you guys are enjoying me doing them. We'll also be starting to look this year at more otome games, which are girl dating sims. In other words, there is one main girl and a harem of guys. So I hope you guys do enjoy when we start doing those. I'll probably do one in between, you know, the normal adult games. I do like to spice it up. People have asked if we'll be doing Yuri games. And if you guys do want to request a game, I'm not guaranteed to look at it, but you can request games that you might want to have me see. Be it regular, Yuri, hentai, otome, just non-adult visual novels. I'm going to keep this channel mostly visual novel style games. If you want to see non-visual novel games, you can check out Simply Pure, where I do my other games such as FPS and stuff like that. That's mostly the Eldritch Abomination, but I let her have some fun. So thank you guys. Again, I do know this isn't normally your guys' type of game, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it like Sweet Pool. And I can't wait to find another game like this. I like these darker games. I've got a few. There's one that I get a lot of requests for, yaoi-wise, that there is no way in hell I'll be able to do. I can't remember the name of it, but some of you guys might know the one I'm talking about. If somebody drops it in here, I probably will let you know in the comments. If I forget to link to the other channel, it's probably going to be at the very end of the video, so keep an eye for that. You'll probably see a link to one of the videos there. If I forget to link to the Twitch, just let me know and I'll add it into the description. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description to see lots of other things. And once again, thank you guys. I know not many of you guys gave a shit about this series, but I really enjoyed it. I can't skip this, so bleh. Hopefully you guys enjoy all this. Exe. Oh, it's a system stuff. Oh, it's still going. Hey, we reached the end. No, fuck. No, now we did. So if you guys do like this, I will look at some more Nitro Plus games. Like I said, I do have some Matomis I want to show off. Hopefully you guys will like it. I do like to bring in a lot of different stuff other than just the regular hentai games. Keep an eye out after this. We'll probably start doing again, what's it called? I'm going to be doing more Snoop game, Snoop. But I'm going to do different mods first, so probably before those videos come out, I'm probably going to release some more Raincoat. If you haven't seen that series, it's a lot of fun. It's made by the guy that made Danganronpa. Just partner with me. You guys they have a lot of really good games I need to show off. Just are good boys. So with that, I believe we're done. Unless Jas wants to keep... Jas, get off the screen. Jas, you've had your moment. Jas, we've talked about this. Jas, there you go, buddy. There you go. So that was it for slow damage. What's this? We have something new. Oh, let's look at bonus content. Music. Photos. Let's see if we got all this. We might have missed a couple. Okay, so yeah, there is more that you can absolutely see. We are nowhere near... We have not unlocked everything because of the choices that we made. So I think there is a bad ending you can get. I probably will not go for that now, maybe in the future. So thank you guys so much for enjoying this series. So thank you guys. I'm glad you guys did enjoy. Look at how nice that artwork is. So thank you guys. Have a fantastic day or night. And thank you for subbing and enjoying. Even if you're just stopping by and checking out the video, thank you. Bye guys.